This conference will now be recorded.
All right, so today I want to talk about boundaries. All right, you all know the continuing education stuff. I don't need to go over this again. Um, these are the upcoming trainings, and again, you know those. Because we don't have a big audience, we can skip that. Um, we may not take an hour and a half today. Um, there's background noise coming in. I think maybe it's through you, Valerie. So I'm going to mute you.
I'm already muted.
Oh, okay. So it's okay that it's through inclusion. All right. They're great. Okay, now we're gone. Okay, and then you know about Dr. Tom Pomeranz coming. He's going to be here the 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, and 14th. The 10th and 11th is on vocational issues. Same presentation presented twice, 9 to 4, lunch included. The 12th is for individuals and their families. If inclusion, if you want to bring a group of clients over that morning from 9 to the 9 to 1 presentation, please register them, and we can, because we want to have this presentation is really geared for the people that we serve and their families. So that would be on the 12th. And then on the 13th, Dr. Pomerantz is going to be repeating the presentation that he did last year because there was a lot of demand for it. And some people said they would either like to see it again or they would like to, we missed it last time and would like to pick it up this time. So that's coming up. All right. Today I wanted to talk about healthy boundaries and supporting everyone in this incredibly caring profession. Boundaries can sometimes seem almost oppositional to our purpose. In other words, we really care about the people, but we also need to keep some distance. After all, we want to support people in leading self-determination lives, regardless of our own personal feelings about their choices. But what if the choices or wishes had a direct impact on our professional boundaries? Um, there are a lot of examples, and we're going to talk about for this at some length, hopefully today. For example, someone may ask us to be their date for a community dance or our personal phone number so they can reach us more easily when they need us. What are the consequences of exceeding to these requests? So what happens when we go beyond being the professional and being basically their friend? The example they're using here is a phone number or going to a dance. It can be much more serious than that. So let's say, for example, a client shares with you that they have become pregnant. And these days, people's views on pregnancy and termination of pregnancy are very polarized. And so you may have strong beliefs yourself on what would be an appropriate situation for that individual, but it's about their individual choice. And we don't kind of cross over on boundaries and say, okay, well, this is what you need to do. We sort of say, well, okay, so what is it that you would like to do in this situation? And do you know what the consequences are? What are some of the options? What are your choices? Can we get you involved with someone, a professional who can help counsel you with what, some of the different alternatives that you can look at are, and then you can make the decision that works best for you. It's not about, I have very strong beliefs on this subject, and therefore I'm going to push you in the direction of how I believe. That's not where we want to be. And I seem to be stuck here. Let me see if I can move. Okay, being aware. There are also consequences when we aren't aware of, and are actually honoring the boundaries of people we support, whether through advocacy or direct care. Understanding what these boundaries are is essential, not only because this is an earnest, person centered approach, but because when we overstep, even if we are helping people achieve something they wish to do, we can do them a disservice. And again, if what we're about is offering individuals choice, letting them making the decisions, for us to sort of enter into the equation and make decisions for them, or to really uh, bias them in terms of our thinking and trying to get them to think the way we think, is really sort of overstepping. The lines between personal and professional relationships are sometimes blurry, and that's no surprise. Since humans are kind, caring, and fallible, and life gets messy, uh, the more we can do to understand and support healthy boundaries settings, the better we can support ourselves and the people we serve each day. Now, Valerie and I have talked about this before. That Bakersfield ARC does a lot of like camping trips, does a lot of social recreation, where the individuals served and the staff do a lot of stuff together outside of the traditional role. And for me, I've shared that's a little bit uncomfortable because I sort of grew up in old school where you had very, very strict boundaries. In working with persons with developmental disabilities, sometimes those boundaries are expanded, and what is considered to be appropriate to share in terms of sharing, to interacting, social situations, etc., can be different, especially if you're out in the community, etc. So that's where you need to really look at what your policies and procedures of your particular agency are, uh, where you feel comfortable, and what really is in the best interest of the person that you're serving. Um, let's see, this one got squished a little bit, but it should be under involved over here, although it's so that screen is kind of messed up. Over involved over here, and then the boundary zone for helpfulness. And there are times that you will be under involved, but still within the bounds of helpfulness. There are times that you can be over involved and still be in the bounds of helpfulness. And that's really where each individual takes a look at what works for them. Now, personal boundaries, the individual limits held between you and another person. So this is what you allow and what you don't allow. All healthy relationships require respect of each other's personal boundaries. Uh, DSPs can work together with people supporting interact in a comfortable and safe way. They can foster relationships of mutual respect. Okay, so what are boundaries that work for you? How much of your personal situation do you want to share? I mean, oftentimes we know quite a bit. Uh, and if you're in a residential setting, a very large amount of the boundary, I mean, of personal information about the individual we're serving. But then how much of it do we share about us with them? Um, Physical boundaries, DSPs may have to support individuals with bathing, dressing, or other kinds of personal hygiene care. Knowing how to practice and model healthy physical boundaries can help individuals learn to avoid abusing in other relationships. So, what is appropriate for if you have to assist somebody? But physical boundaries also, are other things. I mean, we all like a certain amount of personal space. And if you remember at the height of our recent pandemic, we were all told to stay at least 6 feet from people. So that's a personal, physical boundary. I mean, how much space do you keep between you and someone else? Or physical contact. Or do you go up to individuals and put your hand on their shoulder? Do you just you know like elbow bump or fist bump or high five? Um, or do you hug? What is the boundary for a greeting with the people that you're working with? Okay, a friendly DSP is different from a friend. Okay? In this profession, we are paid to be with the individuals that we're serving. They're not necessarily our friends. I mean, we're friendly, we're caring, we're kind, we're compassionate, but that's different than a friendship. We're in a professional relationship. So you should follow the individual service plans in the company's policies so everyone involved has clear expectations. So you should follow what is the norm within the setting you're working with. And sometimes that's spelled out in your policies and procedure manuals. Sometimes it's just that as you work with people, sort of a norm has been developed, and it seems to be what everyone who has contact with the clients is expected to participate in. Um, Sharing work-related information on a personal social media is potentially illegal. So if those of you who have social media accounts, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, et cetera, don't put information about the people you work with out there. That's a violation of confidentiality. It really doesn't serve the individual you're serving's best interest. Keep information about all people supported private. Okay, so we don't. You can clearly put down this is my profession and this is what I do, but I would avoid any information or even necessarily photographs or other situations which show individuals who you are providing services to. Now, if your agency has a social media account and they get releases and do all the necessary things, and it's part of the promotion and goodwill that your agency is doing out there in the community, that's a different story. This is your personal account. Uh, Model socially appropriate greetings with individuals you support. Okay, so how do you greet people? Now, is it a professional greeting? When I meet somebody for the first time at a business meeting, it's usually a handshake. It's not necessary, or if you're a little bit concerned about spreading germs, maybe it's a fist bump or an elbow bump, or it's not. You don't come up to somebody you're meeting the first time, or even regularly, if it's not a personal relationship, and give them a big bear hug and a squeeze and maybe a pat on the back or whatever. That's probably more for those individuals that you know personally and have some sort of a relationship outside of the work setting. Uh, Using handshakes, high fives, and pats on the shoulders. Always ask permission before touching or hugging someone. And again, that whole issue with personal boundaries. Is that person comfortable with you touching them? There are a lot of individuals who are on the spectrum of autism who have tactile sensitivity and may not like being touched or may not like you getting too close. And so you need to learn what is the physical space that's necessary, what is, physical touching, greetings, etc., for every individual that you're working with. Uh, do not give or lend money, clothing, personal items to or from those you work with. So if you're working with individuals, and I think I have an example of this later on, and let's say you go out into the community and stop at a coffee shop, and you realize that you didn't get to the bank this morning and don't have any money, and the persons you're serving are getting coffee, and you say, "Hey, can you lend me $5 so I can get a latte?" And I'll pay you back later. That sort of creates a relationship that's different, and than a professional relationship. Now it's more of a personal. There's an indebtedness. Probably better off to avoid. That could sometimes be considered if you go back to that other slide where you talk about in that range of overdoing it, but it's not really harmful. That's probably in that part of the equation, but still a little bit beyond the borders of what would be appropriate. You're out on a camping trip or something, you're doing social rec with clients, and all of a sudden it starts to rain, and you forgot to bring a jacket, and one of the persons that you serve says, "Hey, I have an extra jacket here," and they lend it to you. Well, here it says, "Try not to take clothing," but again, that might be a situation where it a little bit over, but still within the range of okay. If the individual you support needs help, find resources or trustworthy people that they should ask. So, try that's again part of developing circles of supports. So, if someone needs something rather than you necessarily providing it, trying to find somebody in the community, family, friends, congregates in their church, other places that they may be able to find people who are trustworthy and can provide them with additional help. Be respectful of other people's religious, political, and social beliefs. As I mentioned earlier with that other example, you may have very different beliefs than the individual you're serving. We're currently in an election year, and you may feel very strongly about one of the two presidential candidates, and in the process of advocating for the people that you serve, you're really encouraging folks that they should vote. So as part of that process, maybe getting information about where Biden stands on social services and services to the disabled, finding out where Trump stands on social services and the disabled might be very helpful to provide the person here. This is where the two individuals running for president are on this particular issue, which is very important to the services that you receive. But not, oh, you can't support him because if he gets elected, he's going to obliterate social services, or or you want to support this one because you'll probably do much better with your Social Security benefits. That's really not our place to be saying yes or no to someone's political beliefs. Same thing with religion. Oh no, that's not a good religion to believe in. If you don't accept our faith, the chances of you going to the after world, to heaven, are diminished or are non-existent. You got to believe in this to get to there. That's not our place either. Keep your personal beliefs private when you're working. So it's not about sharing how strongly you feel one way or the other on an issue. Maybe you have strong feelings about what's going on in the Middle East right now. Keep it to yourself. It's not something that needs to be involved in the relationship. that you're dealing with on a daily basis in the setting that you're working with. Um, Use care when speaking about job duties and coworkers. So when you're talking with the people that you serve, you don't sit there and say, well, I really don't like working for XYZ provider. I mean, I do it because it's a job or because I need the money or because I like working with you and with the other clients. But, my manager is really sort of a jerk. And it can get hard sometimes to do this job. Or they make me do um, after I work with you for in the morning, when I come back in the afternoon, then they have me do paperwork for 2 hours, and I hate paperwork. I think it's really stupid. I don't know why I have to do all of that. Not necessarily anything that you need to share with the folks that you're working with. And it sort of puts a wedge because if they then support you, then they may not like the agency that's providing them with the services that they're receiving. So try to keep your personal feelings about your job and also your coworkers. So if you feel strongly about a coworker, somebody came in that morning and was very disrespectful of you, or pointed out something that you did yesterday that they really felt was wrong, and it sort of it's angered you or upset you. Uh, and you're out with your clients, and they say, "Well, so you seem like you're upset. What happened?" And then you sit there, "Well, George did this to me this morning, and it really torqued me up." Not necessarily something that the individual you're serving need to know. And then if next week they're working with George, that could really impact how they work with that individual because you now sort of shared your very strong feelings about that particular worker. Um,
Jeff, I was just
yes,
going to reiterate and kind of say um, these are basically really important points here that as a DSP, individuals do struggle with because there's a fine line and it's difficult. And you also don't want to hurt their feelings. You want to make sure that you come off the right way. So it's a lot of pressure on a DSP, to be
oh yeah,
perfectly honest. We've all been there. And it's just having to find that happy medium where you redirect them in the right way and tell them the right thing. And I know these are always a struggle.
it is. And one of the things to keep in mind is try to keep the focus on them, not on you. And so what's going on in your life is you're not being paid to share what you're about. You're being paid, and your profession is to talk about their needs and what is going on in their life. So if I'm a DSP, and this morning I just had a heck of a time with my kids, getting them ready for school. One of your kids is oppositional, or won't get, or doesn't want to get out of bed, and you're in a hurry because you got to get to this important meeting at 8 o'clock, and all this stuff is going on, and then you get to uh, work and you're sort of torqued up because your morning just didn't start very well. How does that benefit the person that you're working with to really share that? Now, you're absolutely right. We're human beings, and what goes in our life, it's hard to be able to separate that. I come from a clinical background, and there are uh, two terms that they spend a lot of time teaching you when you're a clinician, and those are called transference and countertransference. Transference is you're very warm and kind and empathetic to the person that you're providing therapy with, and then all of a sudden they start taking on this role of like seeing you as like a parent figure or somebody else that's really important to their life, and they transfer onto you feelings that they would like from someone else. Works just the opposite. If I'm a therapist and I'm working with you and you remind me of my ex who I had a horrible time with, am I going to provide you with the support that you need in the therapeutic relationship, or am I going to deal with some of my own personal anger about how I felt like I was dumped? And you have to sort of separate out who you are as an individual and what makes you tick and what's involved in your day with what's involved with their day. Now, focusing primarily on their day is in many cases very helpful, and people see you as warm and empathetic and caring. But you're right, sometimes the people we work with want to know about us. They want to know, hey, okay, Tyler, do you have family? How many kids do you have? What are you going to take a vacation this summer? They want to know that you're a person too, and that's where you can decide how much you do or don't want to share. Um, I had a very, very interesting experience. At one point in my career, I uh, explored whether I wanted to work with the Department of Corrections. And I took a temporary job. I didn't last a week with it. It wasn't right for me. But I was walking with another social worker, and I said, "So, tell me a little about yourself. Tell me about your family." And the woman said, "See those windows up there?" And I said, "Yeah." She goes, "There are prisoners up there, and some of them have learned to lip read. And if I share anything about my family with you here, they can find out. And sometimes that then on the outside, that can create a problem." So, I mean, that was a setting where you didn't want to share anything with anybody, unless it was a very private place. You know, letting people know, wait a minute, I know I have 3 adult children, and they all work in the community, and this is what's going on. That's okay. I mean, but oh no, my middle son um, has been struggling with depression and alcoholism for the last 8 years or something. If that was indeed the case, that wouldn't be something you would want to share in this setting. It really doesn't benefit the relationship between you and the person that you're serving. Um, you shouldn't talk about work issues with the individuals you support. So again, if there's stuff going on at the agency, uh, somebody recently got fired and you really like that person and you don't think it was fair, and you've been talking to them on the phone, after hours, and now you're a little bit concerned about your own job, or that or you think that the supervisor was really very uh, punitive in terms of how they handled the situation. That's not something you want to share with the people that you work with here. What's going on in the work setting that you're involved with is between you, your supervisor, management, et cetera. That's a company issue. That's not a issue for the people that you serve. Um, okay, the importance of boundaries. Demonstrating effective communication techniques and professional interactions with clients and colleagues. So you show people by your actions what's appropriate and inappropriate. If I'm modeling appropriate behavior, especially when we're talking about having clients out in the community and we want them to be interacting with people in public, how I interact with you teaches you how you should be interacting with other people out there as well. So if, I come up to you and uh, first thing I, you know, say is something that's derogatory, inappropriate, over sexualized, something along those lines, that's a real turnoff. The person's going to back away and maybe go away or not want to talk with you. So if we're so modeling boundaries is also helpful in terms of how we want people to interact when they're out and about in the community. Uh, Refrain from adopting a rescuer mentality, which can create dependency and hinder client autonomy. In other words, if you're stepping in and telling the client what to do or doing it for the client or what have you, in lieu of explaining to the individual, hey, these are the options. These are your choices. What you're dealing with here is, other people have dealt with this as well. It's not that unusual. And these are ways that people have done it. And they've done it this way, they've done it this way, they've done it. And it's really explaining what it's all about is very different than going in and saying, oh, no, you have to do it this way. We're going to get you to this particular provider. They're going to take care of everything, and it's all going to be taken care of. And then you're rescuing the person. You're not really helping them to make the choices, and we all make mistakes too. And sometimes letting people make mistakes is important in terms of the whole issue of boundaries. Uh, Prioritizing responsibilities towards clients, ensuring the delivery of beneficial and uh, suitable services. So again, focusing on the individual you serve's needs. And we want to make sure that we're giving the services that we're giving them are beneficial. It's not about peripheral stuff. It's not about stuff that's outside of the work setting. It's about what really works in that setting. If you have clear boundaries, it helps prevent burnout because then you avoid excessive over emotion in the work. You can sort of separate out. Wait a minute. We sat down with Susie and we explained the different options, and then she chose the one that we didn't really want her to choose, and now she's gotten herself in some hot water. She, took out that loan she shouldn't have, and now she owes all this money and doesn't have the ability to pay it. And I'm really worried about her. You're becoming, emotionally invested in the work, and it's hard. And like you were mentioning earlier, we're human beings. We care about these people and what have you. But when is it become our problem versus it being their um, challenge and need to be addressed? And where we're most effective is when we help people to deal with those challenges by giving them alternatives and to get them plugged into the services based on what they tell us their choices are and what the direction that they would like to go in. Fostering a collaborative environment through transparent communication among all care providers and staff. So we want to, when we're talking not only to the individual that we're serving, but also all of our other care providers. So if you're a day program and you're talking to the residential provider or vice versa, or other staff in your setting, how do you communicate with them? And what do you share? And if there's a challenge going on with that individual, how do you get them to be part of the team that's working in a positive manner towards trying to address that uh, concern that the individual is raising? And it's not only concerns. Sometimes people want to go out in the community. Maybe they want to go out and date or uh, do other community activities, drink, other things, and you feel very strongly about whether this person should do that or not do that. Again, not our choices, but how do we make sure that if they're doing that sort of behavior, which is their choice, that it's appropriate. They understand the risks and benefits of that particular behavior. So if somebody is going out drinking, they know in most cases are the people we serve aren't driving, so that's at least one thing we don't have to be worried about. But maybe if they're out in public, they can get harmed, they can be exploited. There are other public drunkenness. There can be other issues that could arise from drinking. So we want to make sure we explain that, and as part of the team, we're all working towards that. And then we want to ensure that the emotional and physical well-being of direct support professionals to support and sustain a work environment. Hang on a second. Ensure the emotional and physical well-being of direct support professionals to ensure the sustainable work environment. So we want to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves and those around us too. So if we see issues with our colleagues, sharing with them, hey, where I'm not a therapist. I'm just, I'm someone who works here just like you work here. And here are some issues that I see that may be a challenge for you, and how you could get help with that. And so that way your issue isn't becoming an impediment with your work with the people that you serve. Upholding the emotional and physical staff safety of clients, which is paramount in providing care. So, we still have a responsibility for maintaining safety in our work setting, and when people are out in the community. As part of people making choices, we want to make sure that they make choices based on information that they need, and that wherever possible, they're doing things that continue to do things in a safe manner. I mean, this is a world that we live in, that there's always a certain amount of risk, and we want to encourage people to make choices and do new things, but we also want to make sure whenever possible that we're doing things safely. So to say, well, I didn't intervene because if I would have intervened, it might have been beyond my boundaries with that individual, that can be a real challenge sometimes, because wait a minute, if you would have intervened, everything would have been okay, and now there's a problem. Don't want to go there either. So that's a tough one. All right. Yes or no answers. Um, uh, you should give your phone number to people you support so they can contact you when you're not on shift. Yes or no?
That's a no.
No.
No. Do you? Well, first of all, if there is an emergency type of situation, many, some agencies have an after hours number, plus the current regional center has an after hours number. So people
Right.
can always get a hold of someone, a manager on call at current regional center if there is something where they need support. But we need to separate out those situations. My wife does some work where she has two phones, one for her business stuff, one for her personal stuff. And so she was able to separate calls. And after 5, she normally doesn't take the business phone calls because that's her workday. Um, Post pictures of the people you work with on Facebook page is a great way to help them make new friends. True or false?
False, not necessary.
Again, if you work for an agency that has a website, and they're as part of their branding, advertising, promotion, a celebration of the community, want to share pictures of individuals with their consent, that's okay. But it's not a good idea for you to be putting them on your own because there's confidentiality issues that we want to avoid. Um, your lunch was forgotten at home today and you're hungry. You know the person you support has a personal stash of cashews. If you just take a handful, no one will notice.
That's a negatory
That's
as
really
well, because I'm sure everyone will end up finding out that you took those cashews. Because they will tell
absolutely.
everyone, hey, so
You
and so
really want
left
to
their
lose your job for a handful of cashew?
It's okay. No one. I'm looking both ways. No, you're right. Uh, you're out hiking with someone you support when the weather shifts and it begins to rain. This is the kind of talk I was talking about earlier. You have an extra jacket, but the company has a no loaning or borrowing policy. Should you lend her the jacket?
I would, because it's
Again,
an
Yeah,
situation where
it's
you
just
have to use,
that's
your better judgment.
yeah, and that I think gets into that realm of okay, so it's a little bit over, but it's certainly not. It's not harmful in any way. It's really it's compassionate and caring.
and it has a start and an end. I mean, once you
Yeah,
reach safety,
right,
the jacket goes.
right
It's not
back,
forever.
right. Right. You're not giving him the jacket, right? Yeah. While out running errands, the person you support decides to stop for coffee. Since you are a little short on cash, you borrow some of their spending cash to pay for your coffee too. This allows you to both sit down for a nice break.
No, no, no. You get a water, free ice water.
Who doesn't have money in this day and age? Really, truly, who doesn't have money in this day and age?
Yeah.
Or yeah, there you go.
Your Apple Pay, right?
Right, there you go. I mean, who knows? I
Yeah.
mean, yeah,
But
you can still
assuming
sit
that
down,
you're
you
down,
can
yeah,
still take a
you
break.
get a water, or you just say, okay, well, no thanks. I had my cup of coffee earlier this morning. I don't need another cup. Thank you. Um, Growing up in England, you have never celebrated the Thanksgiving holiday. There are only two people living in the home where you work, so it seems foolish to buy them a whole turkey to celebrate a single day. You decide to buy lunch meat and make turkey and cranberry sandwiches.
That's
Well,
a
that
terrible
is also a judgment ordeal, but also you should take into consideration asking first if it's
Uh-huh.
something that's meaningful to them.
You're right. Exactly. Um, the game is tied, and there's only 10 minutes left on the clock. Your scheduled shift is over, and you're off the clock. So you sit down with the guys you support to watch the end of the game.
This is not applicable for me, but I'm curious for
Okay.
the answer.
All
I
right.
would say I'd watch it to show the support. That doesn't mean that you're going to be like, let's go get a beer afterwards. It's just
Yeah.
your support there.
All right. Yeah, and that's fine. Yeah. Again, what's
What
the
would you do, Jeff? What would you
what's
do?
the
Would you
benefit?
stay or no?
How is the client benefiting? What's it? And really, you're right. It's just being friendly, and you're interested in the game. And as long as there's, when you're sitting down with them, that you're maintaining social appropriateness. Yeah. Um, you've taken the core curriculum class and have been delegated to assist two people you support. Um, an eardrop prescription was just delivered to address one person's ear infection. The prescription states to begin as soon as possible. You left a message with the nurse and are waiting for him to call you. 2 hours have passed. Should you go ahead and put the drops in the ear? So,
Again,
so
this
this
is
is
it's not applicable for us, but I'm
right.
curious what the answer is.
I mean, if
Now,
it says immediately, you
yeah,
gotta take that into consideration, right?
right. If you're a licensed facility and you do dispense medication, yeah, you can go ahead and dispense based off the doctor's orders. Some facilities, especially the more medical facilities, the ICF type facilities, intermediate care facilities, sometimes have specific rules about having a nurse having to review the prescription and some other things. So again, this is a policy issue. of what your particular agency does. At Inclusion, do you distribute any medication at all, or do you? No. Okay, see, that
Oh, no,
really
we have
depends.
a policy about that.
A
Yeah,
policy not to.
It's actually funny you mentioned it because about 10 years ago, when our structure wasn't as tight as it is now, we had a parent assume that I would be okay putting eye drops in her son's eye. And I'm like, I'm not a professional. I said, I'm not comfortable doing that. And she was like, and I get her point too. She's like, well, it has to be done. And I said, well, either your student can stay home or you can come on your lunch break and do it. I said, but I'm not doing it because that kind of liability, I don't want it, you know?
Right.
And we don't have a nursing staff in our program. So no, that is a non-applicable.
Yeah. So yeah, and that really depends on the facility, the policies and procedures that you have, et cetera. So yeah. Okay. So that's, I only prepared that much material today because I usually go over at the beginning about the CEUs and about the courses that are upcoming and what have you. So we can call it at this point, or I do have some other slides that I can pull up when I was doing the research on this. But I think you guys got the general point of what we're trying to do today, right?
No, this was really great. Where can I get the slideshow for this? Can you email that to me?
I can send it to you.
Okay, that would be great because I definitely need to go over this with my staff. This would definitely be a great refresher for me to train them.
All right. All right. So what we'll do is I'll tell Irene to give you an hour credit for today.
Okay, that's great.
All right. Well, then, thank you for your time, and we'll see you again next month. And then, are you planning on sending anyone to the Tom Pomerantz trainings?
Yeah, my boss is actually going to go to the Tom Pomerantz. I've already done the training with him, and I think I signed for one of the days. But yeah, my boss is.
Jeff, you want to go ahead and stop the recording real quick?
Okay, sure.
Just.
If I can get this thing to work.